Hi, everyone. So, firstly, it seems like we're in the right place because it's pissing outside. So, I'm very glad to be in here. Very glad to be with everybody in the PlayToEarn BGA community. Glad to see everybody come out to Singapore, which is great. Lots of familiar faces from my neck of the woods in Europe, as well as from elsewhere. So it's great to have an opportunity to get everybody together in one place. And I thought I would talk to you a little bit just about kind of, a little bit about us, for those of you who don't know us, but also a little bit about some of the themes that we've been thinking about with respect to games in Web3. So let me see if this one, am I clicking the right thing? I don't seem to be clicking the right thing. Sorry. Am I not clicking the right thing?
Yeah, it should be
No. I can do it manually. That's fine. It's actually not. There we go. Okay, that's fine. So, just as a little bit of. No problem. Just by way of background, obviously, Animoca Brands, we make games. We make games all across the Web3 ecosystem. So everything from, open world metaverses like the Sandbox, which many of you may be familiar with, to AAA games and casual mobile games. And this is some of the stuff that we've been working on. And obviously we love games, that's our core business. And we love the Web3 ecosystem, and we've been trying for many years to find the best way to combine those two passions together. Because what we see in the broader ecosystem is network effects being a key aspect of what happens in Web3. And so, as many of you may know, we're also a very active investor in the space. So we've invested in over 550 companies now, and that includes not just games, but things across the general ecosystem. So infrastructure, DeFi, marketplaces, tool sets, art, you name it, right? And games is a big piece of that because obviously we love content. But the reason behind this strategy is to lean into network effects, because in Web3, we believe that tokens are the incarnation of network effects. When you own a token, you own a piece of the network effect in that application that you own a token in, or that protocol that you own a token in. And so that's why we think this diversity of investments actually has a very consistent theme, which is everything is tokenized. Thinking about where we come from in Web 2, it's just the opposite. Because Web 2 is largely controlled by a handful of extremely large and successful monopolies who we give all our data to. And we give them all our data, and they use AI and large language models and machine learning to create connectivity and learn from all our data. And they take that knowledge and use it for themselves. But they don't share any of those network effects. They don't share them with each other, and they don't share them with us, the consumers, either. We don't benefit. We give them all our content, but we actually don't learn any of the intelligence of what happens. How do they predict that, I want to buy something that I've been having a conversation with my friend about? They don't share any of that insight with us, the consumers. And so there are no shared network effect benefits in Web 2. In Web 3, we actually have a way to do this. So as you all know, at the dawn of the NFT, we came up with profile pic projects. And there were lots of different communities that started to spring up that are still vibrant today around the ownership of different kinds of profile pics and artworks that people use to express themselves. I have one that I use as my avatar on social media, and that's my online persona. And so we have lots of these, roughly 10,000 pic collections that have created really vibrant communities around the world around these network effects. On top of that, we now have games as well that have had the same effect of building communities who enjoy playing those games. But because we are all in Web 3, we have the benefit of actually having connectivity between them, right? So last season in the Sandbox, we onboarded 30 different PFP projects where people could bring their PFPs into the Sandbox and get an avatar in the voxel art style of Sandbox that represented their PFP. So we're essentially interoperating those PFPs and avatars inside Sandbox. So because we're all tokenized, We speak a common language. We can share that network effect. And this is something that particularly during the bear market, I advised all our portfolio companies building games, hey, if you're looking for users, why don't you cater to PFP projects, for example, right? The Bored Ape Yacht Club is a vibrant community with lots of money to spend, right? Maybe they'll like your game, so do an activation and cater to them. Do an airdrop, offer them something, buy an ape, join the community in the Discord, right? Because you can onboard that community by reaching out to them with some kind of content exchange, and it's open and permissionless. So you don't need to cooperate with Yuga Labs to cater to the Bored Ape community. That's the beauty of Web3, right? So these network effects are very important. Is that the next one? Oh, maybe, there we go. So the way we think about this is we think about as we publish games, in Web 2, you had a very, very straightforward job as a publisher of games in Web 2. But when you think about what happens in the token, right, this is not accounted for in traditional publishing. So we actually had to come up with a model for what we call Web3 publishing. And Web3 publishing is essentially figuring out how we can cater to the entire life cycle of a token. And so this is something that we started to do internally for our own studios who were launching game projects. And then eventually we started doing this for our investee studios as well. And now for third parties also, frankly, because everybody needs these services. And the idea is launching a token often goes through the same sort of process of iteration from the initial conception and tokenomics and token design to the go-to-market strategies and working with centralized exchanges and working with KOLs and media outlets to launching, but then also aftermarket liquidity provision and market making and maintaining a healthy and vibrant token economy. And all of these things are the kind of things that traditional Web 2 game studios actually have no idea what to do because this was not part of Web 2. And so this is a way that we can add value to those Web 2 game studios that we invested in to help them on their Web 3 journey. And it's actually something that works across any Web 3 project, not just with games. So we've done here some of the companies, obviously some of the game projects that we've worked with across these services. So briefly, just want to talk about the Mochaverse. The Mochaverse is an in-house project of ours. The Mochaverse is essentially a way for us to try to harness those network effects that I was talking about, but within a specific project. So what we did with the Mochaverse was we launched an NFT collection first, and that NFT collection we airdropped to people in our community. And when I say our community, this was people who work, our staff and our team, people who are our investors and shareholders, people who work at portfolio companies, that we've invested in, people at our studios, people who have kind of one degree of separation from our business. And then on top of that, we then launched, maybe if you can put the next slide, we then launched the Mocha ID system on top of that. And the Mocha ID system was a way for us to create a decentralized identity system and expand our community. So anybody can go online, please feel free to do so later, and sign up for a Mocha ID and get a decentralized ID with your name, something.mocha attached to it. And you can use this then to compete in quests and earn points and things like that. And we have essentially gamified the experience around being a Mochaverse community member. Why have we done this? Because this is a way for us to build a community to share the network effects of everything that we do, right? All the companies that we've invested in, all the companies that we work with, we can actually do activations with the community. And for people who want to have connectivity into what we do, they can then work together with the Mochaverse team, or they can, buy a Mochaverse NFT, etc. And the last step in that is the Mocha coin. So the Mochaverse Foundation launched a token in July. Not the best time to launch a token, just side note. But we're very pleased with the results nonetheless. We did a community launch. And this was the last piece of the puzzle of how to broaden the community even further so that we have essentially different tiers of community membership. You start with the NFT collection, which has now become perhaps a little bit expensive maybe for some people. And then we have the ID system, and then we have the token. And so these are all different ways in which people can then participate in the network effects of what we do. These are examples of some of the collaborations that we do with the Mochaverse. Maybe the next slide. And the one I wanted to highlight was Pixels. Some of you may have seen this example before. Pixels is a game that we invested in several years ago. Fantastic game, and actually Luke, I saw him outside, so if you like Pixels, find Luke. It's his game. He deserves all the credit. Amazing stuff. But one of the things we did was we did an activation with them because Pixels is very cool. It's okay, you can go to the next one. No, it's perfect. Pixels is really cool because by design, it's highly interoperable. It was designed so that you could bring your NFT into Pixels and use it as your avatar regardless of what kind of NFT you have. And that's one of the things that I loved about the game. I love its simple interoperability because I think it really speaks to people like, hey, everybody knows me for my Mocha PFP. I can bring that into the game and be myself, and that means something. So what we did was we launched an activation with Pixels, and we created a Mocha Clubhouse just to see what would happen. We told our Mochaverse community, hey, come to Pixels, try it out. It's really cool. And lo and behold, what happened? Everybody came. Yay! So about 800,000 people came on a Friday into Pixels to play together because they are part of the Mochaverse community. Or maybe they just came to hang out with Yat, who's in the middle there, who you can see. But the point of this is it was a way to do an activation to engage another community and bring them to a new experience. And in exchange, Pixels airdropped them some exclusive merch, digital merch, to come to that activation. And I think that that really shows us the future for how user acquisition works in Web3, because it's a mutually beneficial collaboration. The people from the Mochaverse community receive free stuff, right? They get an airdrop of cool stuff to come and try the game. And as a result, 1 million people came and lots of them stayed, right? And those are some of the companies that are working with the Mochaverse community now. And they stayed, and so for Pixels, they actually ran what amounted to a great user acquisition campaign. They got lots of new users in exchange for an airdrop, and not all of them went, but some of those took their free airdrops and just sold them on a third-party marketplace. But they did gain lots of users, and I think we're going to see more and more of these kind of user acquisition campaigns done within Web3, where it's essentially mutually beneficial airdrops of assets. So these are some of the companies that are working with Mochaverse, and in the interests of time, maybe I go to the next one. I wanted to talk just for 3 minutes to give a quick plug for OMA3. So OMA3 is the Open Metaverse Alliance for Web3. This is a nonprofit foundation that we co-founded together with lots of other projects in Web3. Maybe if you go to the next slide, you can see, I don't know if it'll advance on its own, but these are some of the other projects. There are 3 slides, yeah. And one more, I think. And one more? There we go. There's the summary. So these are all the people who've joined OMA3, and the idea behind OMA3 was simple. Creating interoperability between virtual worlds or games is really hard, right? We know how to create interoperability of value of tokens. I can bring my ETH from one place to another. I can bring my Solana from one place to another. But bringing playable content from one place to another is really hard. We have no standards, right? We can move the token, the underlying NFT, from one place to another, but how do I, decide what that should render? Is it a dragon? Is it blue? Is it green? And what, how big is it? What's the resolution, et cetera, et cetera? How do I do it from a Unity game to an Unreal game, et cetera, et cetera? So what we wanted was to get all the smartest people we could find in Web3 who are making games and put them in a room and start working on these problems. Because if we can come up with some standards amongst ourselves as a community, then everybody else can build stuff that works together with those standards, right? That's the only way, and the Web3 way to do it is to build as a community. And I'm going to shout out Dirk there, who's my partner in crime in OMA3, who's actually our chairman. So if you want to join OMA3, please see Dirk afterwards or myself. So the point of this endeavor was for us to try to work on building these interoperability standards. And it's not sexy stuff, which is why it needs to be done as a consortium, so we can all do our own little bit in our spare time, and hopefully the best ideas rise to the top. So similar to the BGA, frankly. So just to give you some examples of some of the things we're working on, and all this stuff is on the OMA 3 website, so you can look at it there. The portaling and mapping group, just looking at issues of how you get from one metaverse to another. How do you open a door in one metaverse, walk through it, and show up in another game, right? It sounds like a simple thing that we think we've seen on TV before, but actually executing it in games is really hard. But GitHub link on our website, we've done it. So there is a white paper on GitHub. You can look at it, see what you think, and come join us. Help out, contribute to the standard. If you think your company makes a better product, come and tell us. Pitch to all of us, right? Because we want to bring the space forward and we want to come up with solutions that work for everybody. The goal is to come up with an answer, not to own the answer, so to speak, right? Because once we solve these problems, we actually make all our lives easier for people who are building games and metaverses. The next one is token infrastructure. So we've created a token for OMA 3 that allows all of the members to participate in the network effects of the community. We have bug bounties. There's a whole, you can read the white paper, but there's a lot of thought that's gone into pioneering a token design for a nonprofit organization that develops standards. And then we have an NFT working group, which is solely focused on this idea of helping figure out how we can best preserve creator royalties, because we think eliminating creator royalties in marketplaces was one of the most short-sighted ideas that could happen in the content industry, frankly. It's just shooting yourself in the foot. And the last one we have is, of course, the ecosystem working group. Shout out to the BGA, because they are one of the other organizations which we have a working collaboration with, alongside the Metaverse Standards Forum and many other regional organizations, because we want to collaborate with other people in tech, not necessarily just in Web3, but the Metaverse Standards Forum has Google and Microsoft and Facebook in there. They've got lots of resources, so we want to see what they're doing too, and maybe we can help inform them as to what's going on in the Web3 community. And so we work with lots of other organizations as well, and becoming a member of OMA 3 also makes you a member able to participate in their organizations as well, which is kind of why I'm here tonight at the BGA, although I think we're BGA members as well. I think that's it for my slides. Yep, that's it for my slides. But if anybody has any questions, I don't know if we have time left. Couple of minutes.
For a few questions, if anyone has any.
So any questions about? Yes.
I have met at the Gamescom, a company, I just forgot the name now. They're exactly tackling what OMA 3 does. And they already have a solution even to transmit assets from Unity to Unreal Engine. And I'm happy to share the contact once I see my card again.
No, that's fantastic. Well, because we just want to be an open forum to have those discussions and facilitate them, because if they've figured out the answer, it saves us all our spare time figuring it out, and we can just use it, frankly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Thank you. I think we can take one more question if we have any. No? All right, Robby, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.